So Radhika leads the business development for NewsPoint, a content engagement platform from Times Internet. She has worked in many different roles across various sectors such as telecom, IT, media, and internet for the last 15 years. Radhika's experience includes leading large teams in complex business environments, as well as bootstrapping and working with startups. Both environments have taught her three things: accept uncertainty, accept feedback, and always have the will to learn new things. When she's not working, Radhika loves spending time with her husband and 7-year-old son. She's an avid marathon runner and a long-distance open water swimmer. Radhika's hopes is to run all world majors one day with a good timing. Her mantra for life is, my biggest strength is knowing my weakness. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo, for such a nice introduction.
It's really nice to see you again. We had a chance to meet when I was at the World Women's Economic Forum in New Delhi a few weeks ago, and it was really amazing to see so many heart-centered women who wanted to share so much of themselves with each other and with the world. And we had a little time to talk. As you know, my focus is on women in midlife, and I'd like to talk a little bit about your midlife journey. But and I want you to make sure you explain how you became a long open water swimmer, because I thought that was a fascinating story.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about, did you have expectations about what midlife would be? Did you have a sense of when you kind of crossed that threshold into midlife?
Yes, so normally midlife is the general definition of midlife is in late 40s or early 50s, when you have done everything possible in your career, your kids have grown up, whatever was working, your plans, even if you're very hardworking, very successful, they're not working the plans are not working any longer. That's the usual midlife definition. Mm-hmm. But what I've seen that in this internet age and digital age, a generation is no longer a 15, 18-year-old gap. I mean, generations have shrunk to 7, 8-year-old. I mean, if you have two children with an age gap of 7 years, they don't connect. Mm-hmm. And that's why careers have started shrinking. People want to take retirement by the time they reach mid-40s. They're burning out faster. They're possibly reaching a plateau faster because there is a huge force of youngsters coming in. And India, of course, is a much younger country than many other countries in the world, and we face this very frequently. So my biggest surprise for a midlife crisis, it comes much earlier. And no matter how planned, how methodical, I mean, I always plan in advance, but you realize that despite your best efforts, you no matter how hard you've been trying in your career and you've been getting promotions every second year, you get the best ratings, and when you see people, I had seen people getting obsolete once they reach a VP, etc. level, and you think that it will not happen to me because I'm smarter, I work harder. But the surprising thing is, it has not happened to me yet, but you start getting the fear that maybe because younger people are also smart while you are working hard. There are a lot of other people also who are working hard.
Right.
So that was the biggest surprise that I've started encountering in last 2 to 3 years. And though I'm 37 or 38, 38 this year, but the fear and has started to begin. My son is still small. I mean, 7-year-old. My hands are full. It's not that I'm not doing enough, but doing enough seems inadequate already. So that's just one thing. The biggest surprise which I've encountered so far. And that brought me to the thought that I need to keep reinventing myself and not just in one direction. So how I try to think of my life as that it has to have all three buckets: work, life, as well. I mean, work, family, as well as your hobbies. Anything which is too large in the proportion will eventually get disturbed the moment. I mean, if you're achieving everything, you're becoming a star and you have fame and everything is all good, or your kid is doing very well, or one of your hobbies is making you very popular, it's all fine. But the moment one of them goes off, and there's a lot of luck also that plays a role, that will start disturbing you if you other buckets are not full. So that's how I started all three. I mean, focus on all three parts of my life. And that's how, I mean, I was a state level athlete till 6th grade when I stopped everything and focused on academics and wanted to go to an IIT and, studied engineering and maths and everything. But at the age of 35, and one of the reasons was to lose weight. But I started running a lot, and that that gave me a lot of pleasure, and I did well. I started running 10 kilometers in 48 minutes, and then 21, and then eventually I want to run 42. I tried swimming also, and then the best thing is that I met a lot of like-minded people whom you meet and get inspired. Many of them are older than me, and that's what I felt, that you don't have to take it as a crisis. It's a transition. And it's an opportunity also. So I stopped using the word crisis at all. And that has helped me make a more balanced life. So the work is not the only thing I am dependent upon. Kid and family is not the only thing. Yesterday, my kid, who was a competitive swimmer for 3 years, performed very badly, and I couldn't sleep. But I realized that, there is more to do in life. I mean, my runs, my work. So I think I have tried to distribute myself across three things, not to get bogged by any failure in any one of them, or even get overwhelmed by the success also in any one of them.
Yeah. If you kind of put all your eggs in one basket, then
yes.
So much dependence on that basket.
Yes.
Well, let's go back for a second to your swimming now. As I recall, you weren't a swimmer when you were young, and it wasn't until adulthood that you decided you wanted to be a swimmer.
Yes. So in India, a lot of, sorry, I cut you short. Sorry.
No. Please continue.
So the thing is, India is, as I said, is recently becoming a prosperous country. And when we were growing up, I mean, a lot of people in India you will meet who are my age don't know how to swim, because when we were growing up, there were no swimming pools. Very few big cities might have 1 or 2 swimming pools. Obviously, things have changed now, that every community has multiple swimming pools, and the opportunities for our children are far better. So I was not a childhood swimmer, and the first time I learned how to swim was when I was 20 years old. And that's when, so I still can't flip or dive like children do. But I figured out that I the endurance and stroke corrections and all to do long distance swimming.
And so you do open water swimming. So that means that you're out in the ocean.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I'm impressed, because when I started swimming when I was young, but I was swimming in a swimming pool. So for me, if I can't see the bottom, I'm not getting in the water. And so the idea that, I think is fascinating, the fact that you can do open water swimming. My brother-in-law did the Ironman triathlon in San Francisco Bay. And he said, there are sharks out there, and you want to stay with the pack of swimmers, and you have to pay attention.
Yeah, there are tiger sharks there.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that's a whole different thing for me.
Yes. So the other fear I'm sorry, I again cut you short. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
The other fear in India is a fascination for fair skin. Because the north of India still has women who are fairer, but the entire bulk of the India has brown skin like mine. And even the ones who have fairer skin, like, do not want to go out in the open. They want to protect themselves with sunscreen. So girls are not really, I mean, there's a small portion of girls who do all that, but a large portion of girls are not encouraged to go and play out in the sport. They'll say you're becoming black like a frying pan or something like that. And the whole Unilever, which is a very big global FMCG brand, still has a product called Fair and Lovely in India. Fair and Lovely was marketed as a fair bride, or fair bride doesn't get rejected in marriage, but a dark bride can get rejected. Obviously, they changed their whole campaign marketing. After they got they were trolled badly. That was few years back. But my T-shirt and everything I like to wear is Tanned and Lovely. That you should encourage women to go out in the whether it's ocean or pool or run or play sport. Don't be afraid of getting tan, because I mean, first of all, it's healthy. You get a lot of vitamin D. A lot of women in India are vitamin D and hemoglobin deficient, despite the fact that we get so much sun. Because they don't go out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's a conservative country, so you can't wear shorts and all and go out everywhere.
Right.
But then women are not encouraged to look fairer, which I think I try to, by doing it myself, not preaching it to people, but doing it, I try to encourage mothers to send their daughters and not keep them in indoor sports, but let them go out. Yeah.
That's interesting how it's interesting from culture to culture and from times. For us, it used to be that if you were tan, it meant that you worked out in the fields. You were a farmer's daughter or a wife, or you were a laborer of some kind. And so all you wanted to be is, fair skinned. You wear a hat, do all those things, no brown little speckle spots. But now, today, having a tan is seen as desirable because it means you have the leisure to be able to lay out in the sun and that you don't have to be stuck inside an office building. So, it's really interesting how cultures change and,
Yes.
what they like and don't like for those kind of things. It just means that fashion is so fickle.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what life was like for you when you came into motherhood and the changes that brought to your life.
Yeah, so when I was expecting my kid, all the organizations, the large organizations in India follow gender equality, equal opportunity policies and everything. They try to support working women by having creches in the office. You have a small daycare. A lot of companies. Obviously, it has to make economic sense also, and there are certain standards that you would want to maintain in creche and daycare. But they're all very supportive of it. So that has changed in last 10-15 years. Our mothers did not have that facility. But what has again, what is still difficult when you become a mother, that, once you become a mother, they expect you to work, because then that is a corporate star for them, right? That we support women, we support gender diversity and everything. But nobody gives you those meaty roles. The moment, and if you're ambitious, that hurts you. So the moment you reach a stage where you sort of you become a mother or you have a family, people think that your career is written off. You're just doing a job because you want to pass your time and come to office. But yeah, so that happened with me also. Like, my boss asked, how are you going to plan? What are you going to do once you have a kid? And when you don't have a kid, you don't realize that it is a challenge.
They don't ask you those questions either.
Yeah, and you think you'll manage. So I said, there are a lot of women CEOs, CXOs, they have managed. So will I. Then he said, no, forget about them. You tell me, how are you going to manage? And I did not have in India, a lot of parents take care of their grandchildren. It's a common trend that they live with their kids. And even if they're living separately, they come and do a lot of support, which is, I think we should be thankful for, because it's not like that in all other countries. So they do a lot of support there. But then they won't support you for doing your hobbies, like you go for running or you come back at 12 o'clock in the night. And then you also realize that's not healthy for your child as well, right? So that's when I realized that, a lot of people had already written me off, that she will just accept some operations job or some job where you don't require to use your brain and you do new things. And then we have a maternity leave of 84 days. We now have 6 months maternity leave as per the government rule. But that time it was 3 months, 84 days to be precise. So there are rules. The rules are there. You cannot deny somebody bonus during that time. You cannot fire a person. But those rules are there in theory. But in practice, they think that they will give you an important role.
Right.
So I went for 84 days. But I joined back exactly when I was coming back. I asked the HR, whether you have a pump. We didn't have, but I asked if we can pump in the office. And then she said, don't have a facility like that, and making that possible for you will have to have many more rules around it. A lot of things have to be done. It's just not a room. And there hasn't been any request like that from other women, so it will be just one-off thing. So but still I went ahead and I used to start pumping in the washroom.
Yeah.
I made it work, and I carried a bag and used to keep it in the fridge, and managed it somehow with, obviously there's technology, there's Medela, so and those things are available in India, and there are few women who are doing it, but I used to do it regularly for 9 months. I managed after I joined office, so for 1 year I fed my kid like that, and sort of managed it well. It is very hot, so it was a little challenging getting the milk back, because even with your
Right.
plates, those frozen plates,
Hmm.
sometimes if you're stuck in a traffic jam for a long time, even
It could
that
be
milk can go
makes you
bad.
anxious. Yeah.
Yes, but somehow I managed. And then, but when I realized when I came back from my maternity leave, all my projects have been, some of them have been shelved, and not because they were personally doing something bad, but the organization was going through a rough period.
Mm.
But nonetheless, I somehow managed. And when my kid was 1 year old, he started going to a daycare in India.
Mm.
I mean,
Hmm.
daycares are pretty good now. I mean, the expensive ones are good. The
Mm.
not so expensive ones are not good. And since
Hmm.
then, my son has been going to daycare. He is independent. He does, I mean, not perfect, but he does his homework, and it is used to changing and not. So I think it has worked well. Obviously, there are days when I realize that it's not perfect. But
Mm.
like
Hmm.
yesterday when he swam badly because I had not been going to his swimming practice for last 45 days. That's all right. I think he will
And
have to figure out his way. Not I can't push him.
right, right, yeah. The fact that you weren't there is, you can't put that on you, right? But that's how we as mothers do. We think, oh, I have, I have. It's funny. We give ourselves kind of extra power about those things, right? If you had been there, he probably would still have practiced just as hard, and it's one of those things.
Yeah. I mean, it's also possible, but maybe his diet was not perfect. I was able to give him less time. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
things.
a little more
Yeah,
sleep or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
mostly,
I know. There are so many things. Once you become a mother, you there's so many more things to worry about.
yes.
Yeah. And so, how has that changed your outlook on what you want going forward now, as a mother and having a child that you love and you want to take care of?
I think uh, I mean, you can never control everything in life, but when you just control yourself, it is easy for you to be disciplined, you to be working
Mm-hmm.
hard. Or even then, it's not that I had never had failures in life. That despite working hard, it's not that I achieve everything. But when you have a kid or you have a different person to control, you realize that there is a loss of control, and at times you have to give in to that. You
Yeah.
realize that it's okay, this is not the last day, this is
Mm-hmm.
not the last opportunity, and he has a whole life to live, and you can't do everything for you can just give them an opportunity, and eventually it is his or her decision to do it, and his dedication that will bring
Mm-hmm.
results for him or her.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, but at times again, when I started becoming a little taking a little easy in last 45 days because I had to travel a lot for work, and
Mm-hmm.
this happened. So that balance of and the correct configuration or calibration of control is so difficult to achieve. How
Yeah.
easy should you go? How
Mm-hmm.
tough you should be on the kid?
Mm-hmm.
Are you strangling him hard, or are you just being too ezy?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tough balance to achieve. That's what
Yeah.
I realized.
Yeah. That is true. What do you think? Well, so you're in your late 30s, you're on the very early part of midlife. How do you see that progressing for you? And how do you imagine that it will be different for you than, say, for instance, it was for your mother?
I think I'll answer this question in two parts. The first thing is the progression. I think in terms of work, I am still growing in my career. It's not that I'm completely plateaued. I am seeing new things to interact and find out my way. I mean, it's highly likely that I become completely obsolete, and because there are still people above me who are
Mm-hmm.
older than me, and then they sort of mentor you and coach you. I mean, but it's possible that that generation of people who are mentoring and coaching me can also become obsolete. So
Yes.
then and I'm sure they are more worried about it, and then there's nobody above you to mentor and coach you. The way
Mm-hmm.
startup culture, you have Facebook, Twitter, all these founders are very young, right? Uber and
Mm-hmm.
all those guys. So maybe that does not exist, and finding your route is more difficult. The
Mm-hmm.
second part is on the family side also. Obviously, my husband is equally very busy, and then you always have that fear in your relationship that are you growing apart? Are you just being too ambitious that you are not even with each other? So that's one
Mm-hmm.
part. Or are you too focused on the kid that you forget each other? As on the
Yeah.
family side. On the kid side, you feel that he's still 7 and 8. He's cute. He still listens to you. What if he's 11, 12? He stops listening to you. Then you
Things
can't do
change.
anything. He
Yeah.
doesn't even want you around. And even still, the problem here is he needs me more now, and I'm not able to give him time. But it will happen when he is 12 or 13 that he doesn't want me around, he doesn't listen to me, and they kind of shut you out. That's just even more difficult. So I mean, I think all three are the parts which really scare me, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's true. Those teenage years are challenging. And I think, a lot of women who are in their careers, and they're rising in their careers, and they have a lot of responsibilities, and it requires extra time from them. It is challenging for them to be able to still be there when their kids need them. And you kind of think, as your kids grow older, you think, oh, well, they don't need me. Certainly they don't need me in the way that they needed me before, but now they need you for different things, because that those teenage years can be very confusing and challenging to kids. And so it's really important for them to have their parents around, even if they pretend that they don't need them.
Yes. And the second part of it was how different it was for my mother than for me. See, my mother, I mean, at a very early stage of her career, she quit her career to take care of us, because we were three of them. But she was always around. So even when we were angry or sad or happy or coming back from school, she was always around. And she she used to regret leaving her career for us. So I think every few months she would say, I left everything for you guys and you're not listening.
Not being appreciative at all.
Yes. At the back of her head, she always would think, and at the back of her head also, somehow we had that guilt that, let's listen to her, because she has, she sacrificed a lot of things for us. I don't think my son would ever feel that I've sacrificed anything for him. He would think that, I'm a mother who's around, but I don't think he will ever have that feeling of sacrifice, or I don't know what he'll think. And I'm not around a lot of times. He asked me to come and watch him, doing monkey bars or doing push-ups, or he's twisting this, take a video of it. Sometimes I do. It's not that I don't do it at all. But say one in 15 days, while my mother was always around.
Yeah.
Maybe I think he would get back and tell me that, you're not around. And I think so. They would never have that feeling for their parents, which I had. That is good, that it could be possible. And then I don't cook. My mother, whenever I used to come back, we used to get hot food at home. So even now when my mother comes here, my son is always around her asking to cook this, cook that, and she indulges him fully. While I don't cook, I have a help at home. She cooks, of course, not as delicious as my mother used to. So I think those are things which my kid will find missing about him, about us. And
well, it's just a different life. And, we tend to put values on things, like, oh, maybe this isn't, you think so fondly of your own life where your mother was there all the time, provided with all that kind of support, and you think it's not good that maybe I'm not being able to offer that same thing to your son. But his life will be different, and he'll be a different person because of that. So it's the life he knows, and it will all work out. What happened? What do you think your mother's experience was like once all of you finally left home?
Oh, so that's interesting, because all of us have not finally left home, because my brother still lives with my mom. I mean, it's very common in India that, we have a big house, and he's a doctor. So he has his own clinic, which is in the basement of our house, and they live there. I mean, he also moved in back when he had a kid. So that, there is some supervision for the kid.
Right.
So she's still very busy. I mean, earlier she was taking care of the kids. Now she's taking care of the grandkid.
Yeah.
So I don't think she has that kind of thing that there's no vacuum. She's equally busy, which is very common for Indian parents. I think she might be feeling that I'm still overloaded with work. I mean, she's 60, so she might be feeling, she doesn't say that, but at times I feel she must be thinking that there is no vacuum, there's no space for me. And,
well, that's an interesting thought, right? Because it sounds like your mother is, she's a very giving person. She's raised her own children, and now she's helping to raise her grandchildren. And like you say, the question is, where is the space for her? And
Yes.
you wonder how that generation copes with that, whether it's something that they give much thought to, or it's just so much a part of them to carry on that tradition of caring for their family that they never entertain those questions about, well, what about me?
Yeah, I don't think anybody in that generation, not anybody, but people in India, women in India do talk about where is my space? I need space. I don't think they even talk, or even feel like saying things like, I mean, of course, when she's tired and she's not well, she'll say, please get out and I need to sleep. But she
Yeah.
would never say thing with a larger question that I don't have space. I am doing this for you guys. I'm 63 years old. I'm still doing this. I don't think anybody says that in their generation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one or two cases aside, but generally people think that it is a part of their life to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have seen their parents do that, their parents do that. So the
That's
generation
just
shift
what.
largely has happened in last 20, 25 years.
So what do you think it'll be like for your generation?
I really don't know, because I have never taken care of my kid myself without the help. I don't cook. So I don't know. I will not be as loving grandmother, but I think if the world, and obviously maybe they won't need me. I mean, because my mom finds it very difficult to, my son is busy with Pokemon, with sort of video games, very specific things that she doesn't even understand how to. So earlier she used to give him birthday gifts, but now she doesn't even realize what to gift him.
Yeah.
He just takes him to the market. Choices are becoming very, very specific. He just wants a particular character of a video game to be bought.
Yeah.
She finds it very difficult to understand. And he has started making his comic books and he sent it to my mom and she didn't understand a word. Maybe I think the gap between two generations, as I said, is increasing, though the time period is decreasing, but in like 7 years, the gap is becoming as large as it was in 20 years.
Yeah.
So maybe by the time I am a grandmother, maybe that gap would be very different.
Yeah.
Maybe people will be roaming with their changing forms, teleportation. I don't know what will happen. How much, whether I'll be able to cope up with it, I don't know. It looks that, we are prepared. I work in digital companies. I use a lot of internet. I am update with the latest technology. But the pace at which things are changing, they are also becoming very, very fast. And it's very tough for anybody to cope up with it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because particularly for women who have a career and continue on as you have, there isn't, aside from trying to keep up with technology and life as it changes, there isn't that vacuum period that could happen if your son decides to leave home and not continue that tradition of living in your parents' home. And so, yeah, that means that as a woman, your opportunities will be much different than for your mother.
Right.
And do you think that what sense do you have from the other women in your generation? Is this the typical kind of evolution that's happening?
I would think so. See, a lot of women in my generation are also not working because a lot of them are, but not a lot of them are not, even though they were very highly educated, because now, as you said, they have become tiger moms. Like, they were very successful in their careers till they had a kid, but now they want everything for their kid. He should be excellent in academics, excellent in sports, and that requires you to be there. I mean, you can't expect everything to happen perfectly when you're not there. So some of them have, and then obviously there's husbands also relocate to different geographies for work across countries. It's very difficult to have two careers. It's easy to have two jobs. It is easy to have one career and a job, but two careers are very difficult.
Yes.
So a lot of them are not working for that reason. A lot of them are. And a lot of them who were very hardworking and very ambitious when we were young are not so ambitious now. I mean, I know they were ready to go getters, ready to do anything when we were doing our business B school graduation. But I when I tell them that I run, and they say, "Oh, how are you able to do so much?" I'm not able to get, because that desire to keep running weakens for a lot of people with age, with responsibilities. You feel that this is enough. Now
Mhm.
let me pressurize someone else. Now let me put that pressure on the kid. I have done enough.
Yeah, right. Okay, we can help you get better at that. Yeah.
Yes. So that's just
Interesting.
it. There are some who are like me. I mean,
Mhm. Mhm.
the sort of people, yeah.
Mhm. And how is it, how has this change affected the roles that men have had to take on? So I'm guessing that in your, growing up, your mom did the bulk of things and your father went out to work and came back. I mean, the kind of traditional roles for men and women. And um, but in your generation, it's different when you have people with two careers. And if you're fortunate enough to have household help and that kind of thing, then it means both of you are free to follow your careers. But for those women who don't, for whatever reason, what how is that impacting men and what the expectations are for men?
So for women, I mean, where both men and women are not, husband and wife are not chasing their careers or even their hobbies which become an ambition, like
Mm-hmm.
riding or swimming. I
Mm-hmm.
think in such cases, women do the entire raising part for the child.
Mm-hmm.
I always see when I go for swimming coaching, it's the mother who's around
Mm-hmm.
throughout the. I mean, you only see the fathers during the actual performance day of the competition,
Yeah.
and even then they don't have the patience to sit through it because there are multiple heats. The
Yeah, it's
heats
a
of
long
different
process,
groups.
those things
It's
are.
so
Mhm.
boring to sit, and then you are very nervous also all throughout, even for your child, right?
Yes, yes, of
So
course.
the mothers still have the patience to sit through it,
Yeah.
but fathers don't. So even where women are capable and work with their jobs to take care of the kids, or whatever scenarios, I still see women doing the heavy lifting for the children. At
Mhm.
least in India, I don't know how is it
So you're
out
not
there.
seeing that men
They do
are
help,
right, but
but it's not that they are doing all the heavy lifting. I mean, the
yeah,
groundwork has to be done by the mom, and father will
right.
just appear on the screen on the day of the competition and then stand with a medal if the kid does something, and then
Yeah,
is there.
right. They get their
My
picture
son,
taken with the kid in the
yeah,
medal, and then
my son, and maybe make a social media post. But it's the mother who has done all the hard
it's
work.
done all the work. That's funny. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Well, is there a topic that I haven't touched on that something you'd like to bring forward?
I think yeah, you've taken most of them, in a different way. The questions which you've sent to me, you've asked all of them in a different way. I think you've covered everything. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for your interview and sharing your thoughts. It's really interesting to me to see, like you say, the time for generations is shrinking, and like so it happens that my children, my two daughters, are 6 years apart, and it's kind of like they lived in two different worlds in a lot of ways about things. Even my older one will say, I don't know, Mom. Her sister, I didn't do that when I was young. She got all these other things going that I really don't know that much about because I didn't experience those things. And it's not like they're that far apart. But it's always interesting to me to hear women talk about what that's like for them as they're kind of entering into the midlife space. A lot of women that I speak to are either largely through it or past, and so it's nice to get your input as well. So I
Sure.
want
I
to
look forward to your book, and I would love to read your experiences with other people whom you chat with.
yes, thank you. I'm looking forward to putting all that out. I will be these interviews that I'm doing here will also be up on my website at some point as soon as I can get them all collated, put together, and so you'll be able to see some of them there as well. So again, I want to thank you very much for being part of this. I've really
Thank you so
enjoyed talking with
much.
you.
And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I
Oh yeah,
look forward to go to your website as soon as you're done
thank
and
you.
hear about. So, are you talking to women across? I'm sure you are, to different countries, and it will be very different to get a
Yeah,
perspective. Yeah.
it is interesting. I'm speaking to the women that I've met in India. I'm speaking to the women that I've met from Australia at Women's Economic Forum. I'm speaking to women here in the United States, and I'm looking for entree into other areas of the world too, because I want to find out if that concept of midlife differs from culture to culture, because like, as you say, for your mother, midlife was kind of a non-event because life just kind of rolled into the next set of kids generation to take care of. So it's interesting to see. And, you know, when I started this project, I remember thinking, well, I wonder if I will find that midlife is that sense of a midlife crisis, or that ability to kind of stop and take stock, is a privilege of cultures that are affluent enough to be able to ask that question, right? Because there are a lot of countries where for many women, there is no opportunity to think about things like that because life is all about survival. And yeah, so it's an interesting question in terms of how does midlife play out in different cultures.
It'd be very interesting to read. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
Okay. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. As a thank you for being here, I'd like to offer you my glorious Second Act Workbook and Planner. It's a great tool to help you gain clarity on what it is you want next in your life and to create a plan to get you there. It's a totally free gift. The link is down below, so click the link, download your planner, and get started, taking action and creating a new and exciting second half to your life. I'm Joanne Kobike, your midlife coach. Stop by again for another episode of Modern Midlife. See you next time.